Is up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare Minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire Leadership podcast for all of you today. And I'm with my man, Mr. Jason Everett. Jason, will you say what's up to everyone real quickly?
Hello, everybody. What's up?
Listen, I know Jason's going to bring some serious fire today, but before we jump in, I want to remind you why I do these podcasts, why I interview these leaders in different spaces, and that is simply this. I believe that all of us were made on purpose for a purpose. And isn't it about time in 2022 to start living on purpose? But even deeper than that, I believe there's a divine creator that has put a leader in all of you. And I pray that something that we talk about today not just motivates you, but deeply inspires you to go, you know what? I want to be that leader that God has called me to be. So Jason, thank you so much for being on. I've been really excited about having you on. I know we had a couple of weeks there we weren't able to make it work, but I'm glad we were able to make it work this week. And what I always like to do in the beginning, Jason, is simply just to have the person that we're interviewing give us a 30,000 foot view of their story. So maybe a little bit of the past, some of that transition time up to what you're doing today.
Sure. So back in 1998, I graduated high school, and I moved off to Bible college up in Springfield, Missouri, and graduated Bible college. Then got an opportunity to work for a telemarketing company up there that did long distance. And, many people today don't remember that phones used to have cords.
Right.
And, it cost
right.
money. And so I worked for this long distance company, and I had a friend of mine came to me one day and he said, want to let you know I'm leaving. I'm going to work in the insurance business. And I said, oh my gracious, you're one of the best guys here. Why would you do
Sure.
that? I said, well, I feel like there's an opportunity there. So a few months goes by, and his wife also worked at our call center. And he pulled back in, and he was driving this little blue Geo Metro. And I thought to myself, yeah, you really messed up. And picked up his wife, and they drove off. And it wasn't very long after that, his wife came to me one day and said, I want to let you know I put in my notice. I'm leaving. I'm going in the insurance business. And I thought, holy smokes, they're going to lose everything with this commission-only thing. And so they went over there, and again, a few weeks goes by, and my best friend at the call center comes and says, hey, I want to let you know I'm going to the insurance business. I said, Cody, you've lost your mind. Have you seen what Greg's driving? Now his wife's over there. So he switched over, and a few weeks goes by, and he says, hey, I want to come and go over some policies with you. And I thought, well, I'll do this just because he's my friend. And
Sure.
So he did, and he messed up paperwork 2 or 3 times, and I had to go to the office to get it all fixed. And I thought, this is my opportunity. They think I'm coming in for an interview, but I'm actually going to go in and recruit back some of the people that I used to work with. Mm-hmm. And so I went in, and I realized real quickly that what they were doing was making a difference. And all I ever wanted to do in life was help people. That's why I was in Bible college. But after graduating, so I started working there, and that was in June of 2003. And in October of 2003, I went full time. And my wife and I, though, we had been married since 2001, and we'd seen many people leave Bible college to go out and work in the church, and their marriages were falling apart. And when their marriage would fall apart, we would notice that the church would be hurt because of it. Well, I have to be honest with you, our marriage wasn't the strongest. And the last thing I wanted to do was to go out and hurt a church. And so that's why, I started the insurance business. And thankfully, one day we had been into it, and we had a knock upon the door one night. And it was a friend of mine that was a pastor in the area. And he said, hey, we've started a new church, and we'd like for you to come and be part of it. So we did. And thankfully, God kept us there for that reason. We got introduced to biblical counseling, and it saved our marriage, saved our family. Unfortunately, for 6 years, though, we were not able to have children. We were told 1 in a million chances to ever have children on our own. And so we started down the path of adoption, and we had an adoption that fell through. And In January of 2008, though, with God's hand, we had our very first boy. His name was Joshua, and is Joshua. He's now a 14-year-old teenager, and so if you see these gray hairs, you know I have teenagers. You know, yep. I didn't have them back then. I have them now.
That's right.
15 months after that, we had our son Caleb, and then we had our son Hudson, and then our son Titus, then our son Silas, then our son Haddon, and now we have 7 sons. Our last one's name is Pat. So I always joke and say, if I look tired, I probably am.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of where then I got an opportunity to move to Northwest Arkansas and open an agency. I moved there. And then I got a chance to relocate where basically I'm from, down in Little Rock. And so I took over the agency here, and now we have 8 locations over several states. And right now we have about 170 agents that work for us. And truly, I can tell you this, that God has given me the request that I wanted, and that was, I just want to help people. And here a few years ago, I got a phone call one day from a guy I went to Bible college with. He said, I can't believe you're in insurance. You know, people are dying and going to hell, and here you are in the insurance business. And I said, hang on just a second. I said, how many people have you counseled today? And he said, none. I said, well, this morning I had a husband that is thinking about leaving his wife. And I have somebody that has been going through a depression time in their life. And I have somebody that I've been able to encourage here. And I said, I probably do more counseling in 1 week than you do in months because people come to me, and it gives me an opportunity to really pour into them.
Man, so many nuggets there that I want to dive into just real quickly. But it's interesting that you say that. The persona, the Medicare minister, really came out of, obviously, we do a lot of Medicare here where we're at, but just being an ordained minister and being in ministry for over 20 years. But I was just telling somebody this the other day, Jason, that ministry is not something I do. Ministry is who I am, right? It's who we are. Right. It's interesting you say that because, you know, last Friday, we don't normally go to people's homes anymore because of COVID or whatever, but just felt God wanted us to go to this home. My wife and I go. These people are on really expensive Medicare supplements. They were put on these $100 drug plans that they should have never been on. And in one sit down, we were able to save them $7,200 in 1 year. That's what they're going to save. But also just to be able to go and help them. That was a ministry. This morning in our office here, we were able to pray with the lady who's, you know, celebrating the 1 year birthday loss of her husband. Right. And we were able to pray. So it's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of times people think that insurance is not a ministry. And I challenge that idea because we believe it is. And it sounds like you believe the same way.
You know, we're dealing with people at their hardest times of their life. They just got diagnosed with cancer. They just lost a loved one. Unfortunately, in our agency this week, it has been very difficult. We have a lady that's worked for us for 9 years, and she walked out of the office at 9:02 on Monday and had to have a procedure done Tuesday. And unfortunately, on Tuesday morning, I received the call that she had passed away. Oh, wow. And so we've been doing that this week in our agency. And of course, this coming Monday, as we have our weekly meeting, we'll be talking about her. But, you know, think about this. She was 85, and she worked up till, let's see, she walked out at 9:02, and I think she passed away at about 8:30 the next morning. So within 23 hours of her passing away, she was still working and serving and loving. And we have a lady in our office that just recently became a believer. She's been pouring into her. She's been hand making my cards that we send out for 9 years. She's the one that always ordered our flowers. She's the one that made me look good. And, you know, this morning we had somebody walk in and say, hey, I need a tablecloth. And I was like, you need to go ask May. Oh, May's not here. And so we're struggling with that, but we're rejoicing because we know where May's at. And May lost her daughter a couple of years ago due to cancer. And so today, you know, yesterday when May got to heaven, it was a reunion. And so we don't want May back here. But, man, you talk about week giving an opportunity just to continue to talk about a legacy. And I heard something couple weeks ago, and I think now about hearing it and the impact, and it was this: you have a legacy as long as your name is still being spoken about. But the day your name is said for the last time, your legacy ends. And I'm thinking, here May is, all of these young guys and gals that work here, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, they're going to remember May and her work ethic for years and years and generations. What a legacy.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And yeah, like you said, we know it's cliche to say it, but we truly know she's in a divinely better place, right? That we know that. And so, yeah, awesome. Let me ask you this real quickly about the strong marriage, right? And as much as you're willing to share, as someone who's been in ministry for a long time, I was guilty multiple seasons through that ministry of sacrificing my marriage on the altar of ministry. Like you said, it's very predominant in the ministry, right? Where people are serving others at the expense of really serving their marriage. What was one of the biggest takeaways during that season as you got into counseling? What was something that you really learned that began to help maybe turn your marriage around? Once again, up to what you're willing to share.
Yeah, no problem. So there's an article out there. It's been a few years since I read it, so I'm sure if somebody Googles it, they can find it. And it was "Marriages for Losers." And, here I am. I've been in telemarketing. I've been in sales. I know how to handle reluctance, and I know how to navigate arguments and, trying to convince you to see it my way. And in marriage, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not win. It's okay not to have your way all the time. And as somebody, I was the baby of the family growing up. I got what I wanted when I wanted it. If you don't believe me, my sisters, they'll be sure to tell you.
Right.
And here I am, raised as the baby of the family, the apple of my mom's eye. And I'm in a marriage where my wife was the middle child. And I expected, that marriage would be all sunshine and rainbows. And when we encountered that's not the case, well, everybody's always done what I wanted. Everybody's always given me what I wanted when I wanted. And, I thought that was going to be the case in marriage. And then on top of that, you go into, trying to combine finances and, and what does that look like? And I always say that money is a magnifying glass. When problems occur and there's no money, there's even bigger problems. And when times are good and you got money, times are even better. And so money makes a difference. But I'll tell you this, that it really came down to understanding that I had a problem myself. I was a sinner. I wanted my way. I was selfish. And when you start trying to say, marriage is for losers. And so that was an article that helped me. And thankfully, biblical counseling helped us save our marriage.
Yeah. And I'm a big advocate of counseling or, preferably faith-based counseling, but I'm a big advocate of it because even with my marriage, going to counseling really, really, really helped us in a lot of ways because it just really helps you see some things maybe. And my wife and I do a little Bible devotional here in the office every morning. And this morning it talked about starving the bad and feeding the good. And the whole point of the devotional was a lot of times we tend to look at a lot of our spouse negatively because of the things they do to annoy us instead of focusing on the positive things. Right. And I think counseling for us really helped us focus on the positive. And even if there was some negative things, how could we talk about it and really communicate and not be angry? And so I totally agree. I think there for some of you watching today, maybe you're watching this, maybe you just need to suck it up, lower your pride, stop trying to be right all the time and go find some help somewhere. There's no shame in getting help to help save something that God put together. So thank you for sharing that, Jason. Real quickly, back to the telemarketing. What was one big takeaway from working in telemarketing that begin to prepare you for the success that you've had today?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that set me apart in the telemarketing was building rapport. I learned that I could listen to somebody's voice and I could listen to them for just a second and I knew how to speak to them, and I was able to pull from my background. So when I was a kid, I was in 7th grade, I thought I was ready for the summer. My mom had a builder pick me up and I built my summer of my 7th grade. And then I laid asphalt, and then I worked for a rock quarry, and then I did a surveying crew out surveying. And so I had all of these experiences. And so building that rapport, it didn't matter what somebody's background was, I could relate to it. And so that helped me understand, that if you'll just listen to people long enough, you can relate to them. And I always talk about, that everybody likes to talk about their family. Everybody likes to talk about their occupation. Everybody likes to talk about their recreation. Everybody likes to talk about the weather. And so when you start thinking about what everybody likes to talk about, it gives you a place to start.
Sure. And the other thing I heard you say in the intro was about thinking about why would somebody go from like guaranteed salary or income to commission only. What was the mind shift that you had to have to in order for you to start betting on yourself, believing I could make it in a commission only world?
Well, I would say the biggest thing for me was we had been married a year and a half or so, and we were $36,000 in credit card debt. We didn't know how to say no to things, so we went out and we bought a new couch and a new table, and
sure.
And as long as they kept saying accepted, we didn't get arrested for shoplifting.
Right.
And so we were very poor stewards of our money early on. She was making probably $30,000 a year. I was making $30,000 a year, $60,000, which was more than most of the people our age.
Sure.
But we were spending $75,000 a year, And so I knew that we had to pay that debt off. It was truly like a collar around my neck, just getting tighter. And so I wanted to be able for my wife to be able to be home. I wanted her to be able to, at this point we didn't know we couldn't have children yet. So I wanted her to be able to be at home, to have kids, to raise our children. But I also wanted to provide a life for my children that they didn't have to worry about where their next meal was come from. I was blessed. My dad worked for the railroad my whole life, and so we never went without. And I wanted to have that same sort of opportunity. Sure. And I wanted to make $75,000, $80,000 a year. I thought was kind of what I needed to have in order to accomplish that. But I tell people my first year in insurance, I was able to pay off that debt. And I worked hard. Most people work 40 hours a week. I worked 60. And I'd made $112,000. I think this is funny, Rob. I finished my first year and I hit over 6 figures. And I came in at Christmas, and my dad was sitting in the recliner, and it was everybody was taking their Christmas nap. And I sat down and I thought, I'm going to tell my dad how much money I've made this year, because he's going to be so proud of me. He's going to tell me, you're the son I've always dreamed of. You're way better than your sisters. Yeah. I kind of chopped this up in my mind, what he was going to say. Right. He said, Dad, I want to tell you something. I said, I'm going to make over $100,000 this year. And this is what he said. Boy, I don't know if what you're doing is illegal, but if it is, we're not going to come get you out of jail. So right. I think he's figured out I'm doing things legally.
Sure. So give us some numbers today. Like you're over multiple agencies, own multiple agencies. What are some premium numbers? You mind just sharing a little bit of that? Because most of the audience watching this are a lot of them are in the insurance space. We have people in different spaces, but I just believe it encourages people. Yeah.
So we write a lot of $30 to $40 a month apps. So that's not large premiums. And this last year we wrote $7.2 million.
Wow.
And this year we're on track for 10 million. That's what we're shooting for, is 10 million. We think we can hit 10 million. And so we're doing everything we can to accomplish that.
So obviously this is a leadership podcast. From the time that you started and you made that first little over 100,000 and you had that conversation with your dad up to the 7 million now in premium, what was one of the biggest changes that had to happen within you, inside of you, in order to help you guys get there?
Well, I think the first thing is I had to train my mind. One of the things that I think a lot of times that we make a mistake on is we allow every little thing to affect us. Now, I just shared with you that Miss May died this week, and so I shared that with you. But I think prior to that, in our interaction, you wouldn't have known that we're going through that.
Sure.
And so a lot of people, they walk into every part of their life carrying all of their baggage. Okay. So we're fighting at home, and now I'm walking into the office, and you can tell it on my face. And when I leave the office and I've had a bad day, my kids can tell it when I walk in.
Sure.
And we allow so I think you've got to learn to compartmentalize your life, that this has to stay here. And even if you have a client that ticks you off, tells you no, stands you up, that next appointment doesn't deserve to get the wrath of what just hurt. You got to be able to compartmentalize.
Right.
One of the things I talk about agents all the time is I have a gate that I drive through every morning, and I hang my problems up on that gate that are, whether it's my children or this issue or that phone call, I try to hang it up. And then when I come in the afternoons, whatever I've encountered that day, I try to hang it up and not take it in on my family. Now, am I perfect at it? No. But the other thing that I try to do is, and we have this saying in our house, and that is, wherever you are, be all there. And so when I go in to the house, I really try to put my phone up for an hour, hour and a half, so I can focus on my family. Sure. Again, did I do that perfectly? No, I'd be a hypocrite to tell you I do, but it's something we work towards. On the other side, when I come into the agency, I try to pour into my people, and so I have to be all there in order to pour into them. And, you really have to make any change, you've got to start small. I think a lot of times we try to change too much all at once, and then we fail at everything. And so it's just small starts get you where you want to be. And, that to me, that's a big deal.
Sure. How many agents do you oversee with all of your different offices?
It's a little over 170.
So from a leadership perspective, what one leadership trait or habit or principle, however you want to define it, have you learned to cultivate in your own life and you lead others from? Is there one that rises to the top?
Yeah, it's prideful, I think, to say it, but I think my people would say this about me, and that is, you've got to be a servant. I think one of the things we have to do in business is we have to remove fear. There's a lot of people that work under fear, and they're fearful of their leaders, and I think that's not where you get the best results. I think of any business, if you think about it, is like a pyramid. I know nobody wants to talk about this, right? Especially in the insurance business, everybody tries to avoid it. But you have, your top person in the organization, then you have your middle management, then you have all the way down. But they would say, well, that's a pyramid. And then on the other hand, you have a business owner and you got the managers. So what do you call that? It's the same thing. And so if you think about the way it looks, you have a lot of people barking down, right? And that's what people don't like. What I want to do is kind of think of it as a pyramid on its side. So here I am as the leader. I'm not saying go do. I'm saying let's go get it done. So follow me. Let's go. Let's storm the gates together. And so that's servant leadership. It's saying, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Let's go do it together.
Sure. So maybe somebody's watching this today that's wanting to recruit people, wanting to go to that next level, just from them doing everything by themselves to, getting their first agent or first amount of agents. What is it that you look for in people when you're recruiting? How do you define what a leader looks like?
Well, if I could come up with that equation, I would be a billionaire. And because here's the thing I'll tell you, through my career, I've never been able to look at anybody and say they've got what it takes.
Sure.
Because the people I think they have what it takes end up failing, and the people I say there's not a chance become the winners. And it comes down to there's will and there's skill. I can teach skill all day long. I can teach you how to get past the gatekeeper. I can tell you how to take no. I can tell you this. But the thing I can't teach you is will. Will is something you've got to bring to the table. And unfortunately, there's not a willow meter that people have on their head. I wish there was. But, I have people that I have a young lady that works for me that was literally eating roadkill before she started with us. Wow. And now she's making $100,000 a year. I have a guy that really had an alcohol and drug addiction, and now he's made himself into a millionaire in 9 years. Those are the stories that get me up in the morning. That's what gets me driving. I've got a gentleman that was a baseball coach who, didn't have enough money to rent a moving van, and now 9 years later, he's a millionaire. That's exciting. That's what gives me an opportunity. But here's the thing. It's not just that they're making six figures a year. It's that now they're making a huge impact in the areas they live. They're giving back. We talked about make tomorrow better. And there's some things in our organization that we all agree make tomorrow better. You probably see this picture up here above my desk. That's a ministry we support, John 3:16. They help men get off alcohol and drugs and back at home with their family. Sure. We are all working towards that. If we can get dad home, that's a big deal. And we have others besides that. But that's something that we see our folks that when they start making money, it's not just about themselves. Then they start giving back to their community.
Sure. Let me ask you this in light of making an impact. I like to say living on purpose, living on mission, same thing, just different terminology. But in light from a faith-based perspective lens, what's the difference between, because you hear success all the time, but I think a lot of people sacrifice fulfillment on the altar of success. I do believe you can have both, but how would you define the differences between both success, just being successful and being fulfilled?
Yeah. So I think when you really talk about being fulfilled, money can't fulfill you.
Right.
Fame can't fulfill you. Fortune can't fulfill you. Yeah. So when you talk about fulfillment, I think you're talking about your relationship with the Lord. You're talking about your relationship with your children. You're talking about your relationship with your wife, your spouse, your family. And there's no amount of success in the world's eyes that gives you that fulfillment. The fulfillment is, there's a lot of people that have a lot of money. And, I could probably say names of people we would all know.
Sure.
But I bet you when they lay their head down at night on their pillow, they're uneasy inside because they know there's a void. And that void is one that only Christ can fill. Sure. And so if they have that void, success doesn't matter. They're not fulfilled. And so they know that they're searching for something else that they don't have.
Sure. And I was just talking about that at lunch today, that a lot of times we will try to, my friend calls it a God-sized hole or God-shaped hole in us that only God can fill, but we settle for the generic, we settle for less, and we try to stuff that hole to find that happiness, if you will, that fulfillment, when in reality, it's all fleeting. As a father, you talked about having 7 children. How, as a father or as a man, how have you had to grow from the first child to 7? What is the big differences that had to take place there in order for you to lead 7 well?
I was blessed. I had a great dad. And so I don't feel like this has been as difficult for me as those that were raised in a fatherless home. Here's what I knew about my dad. I never wanted to disappoint him. And I didn't go out on Friday night and party because I didn't want to see my dad's disappointment. And so I try to think back, what did my dad do that made me not want to do that? And I think it was this. My dad wanted to spend time with me. We went fishing. We went hunting. One time he took a week off and And we went, and this is about the time I was 13 years old, and we went up to Wyoming and Montana. And, we just spent time together. So that's something I'm trying to do for my boys. When they turn 13 and it's time to start having that talk,
right,
we go on an 11, 12-day trip, because that's what my dad did for me.
Sure.
And, every night I try to go in and I try to rub on my boys, rub their back, rub their head, tell them I love them, tell them and pray with them. I try to lay with them. And when you have 7 boys and you talk about just 10 minutes a person,
right,
that's commitment.
Yeah, that's commitment. Yeah.
But that's what I love to do as a dad. I love, it's amazing when you lay with your 9 or 10-year-old and you're laying there in the bed with them, you're talking about their day, what they'll open up. Dad, I heard this today. What does this mean? And here's what I always try to tell them. There's no question that you can't ask me that I won't tell you the truth. Now, there are some things I'm going to tell you. You really don't need to know about that yet.
Sure.
We will talk about that part of this trip. Hey, when you turn 12 or you turn 13 and we go on this trip, we're going to talk all about that. We're going to answer all those questions. But the thing I don't want you to do, I don't want you to go to your friends and start asking them. And I don't want you to get on the internet, because Satan wants to steal, kill, and destroy you.
Sure.
And the fastest way to do that is to get you to start thinking about trusting other people besides me. I love you more than anybody in the world except for God, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect you.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, Jason, because I didn't grow up with a father. My mom was a single mom, had me when she was 15, my brother when she was 17. And it wasn't really until I knew the Father's love, and I'm speaking of our Heavenly Father, that I was fully loved. I was fully accepted because of the trust that I had in the perfect work of Christ, right? And don't want to speak too much Christianese here, but bottom line is, it just changed me, where I stopped chasing lesser loves, if you will, because I knew that I was loved by this Heavenly Father. And it's interesting you say that, because I believe when you know you're really loved like that, it empowers you to be able to say no to a lot more things versus if you didn't have that love, right? So I love that you bring that up. As far as you overseeing all of these agents, and obviously some of them consider you to be a mentor, was there a mentor in your life that helped you develop into the person that you are today? Or maybe they said something that was a paradigm shift or a breakthrough for you?
I had an opportunity to I've been in the business about 5 years. Mm-hmm. And the company asked us to bring all of our retirees from the company back to a general meeting. And so I was assigned to a gentleman by the name of Dane Huxley. He started with our company in 1959.
Wow.
So I helped Huxley get on the airplane, and we went to the meeting together. And we were on our way home, and I said, Mr. Huxley, of course, here's this guy that's a giant in my eyes, because he's started in 1959, retired in 92. He promoted a gentleman by the name of Jeff Miller that hired me. And I said, Mr. Huxley, is there anything you would tell me? And here's what he said. Son, be nice to those on your way up, because you'll want them to be nice to you on your way down.
Man.
And Mr. now passed away. But even right now, as I say that, I get goosebumps, because we're in a business that sometimes we can become prideful and we can think it's about us.
Yep.
But we're all one bad decision away from destroying their lives. And that really kind of goes back to what I said just a minute ago with my kids. I have this saying that I say to them a lot of times when they get out of the car in the morning, and that is, sin will take you farther than you want to go. It will cost you more than you ever wanted to spend, and it will keep you longer than you ever want to stay. I said it wrong. It will take you farther than you wanted to go. It'll cost you more than you wanted to pay, and it'll keep you longer than you wanted to stay. And so that's something I say to them. And then I say this: a good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. Don't destroy your name today. And there's times that, I believe the Holy Spirit, I'll make a decision or I'll say something, and then I have to say, you know what? Did that really honor the Lord? Did that honor your name? And, so I think just trying to remember that we're all just one decision away from destroying our life.
Sure. Sure. No, I totally agree. So real quickly in this moment, what if somebody has just failed miserably? I mean, I have failed miserably at different seasons in my life, and by the grace of God, I tell people because of the grace of God, we're able to fail forward. But what if there's somebody right now who's listening to going, I didn't follow that advice. Is it too late for me? Can I still do something with my life? What is some advice that you would give them right now in this moment?
Yeah, so I would say this: what lies do you believe? All right. So we all believe that, a lie that we often believe is that we can out-sin God's forgiveness. Well, we can't. God, when he died on the cross, he forgave our sins today and our sins in the future. So we can't go past the future and sin past there. So he will forgive those sins.
Sure.
So that's a lie that we believe that we can out-sin him. And then the other thing is, what truths are we ignoring? And I think something you have to ask yourself is, do you believe that we serve a forgiving God?
Sure.
And if you do, I can't out-sin him. I can't out-sin his forgiveness. And I also know that he loves me. And, I think of, even the father-son relationship. My kids can sin, and I'm disappointed.
Sure.
And I tell them, that's not what you should have done. But that night, I want to hold them and pray with them and talk to them. And here's what I tell them every morning: God's mercies are new every single morning. And so if we get up every morning, we say, you know what? Yesterday I did mess up. Yesterday I did something I wasn't supposed to do. I'm going to change. I'm going to repent. I'm going to turn from that. But God's mercies are new every morning. Yeah,
I used to say this all the time when we were pastoring, that he has more mercy than you do mess, right? And it's a powerful truth, man, but it's so true. I love the way that you articulated it. As we get ready to wrap up today, let me ask you this. I ask everybody that comes on the podcast this: if there was one word that you would use to describe Jason, what would that one word be?
Love.
Okay, so go ahead.
I just want to love people.
How do you think that has contributed to your overall success today?
Well, there's parts of our business where you could choose to do a different product, or you could treat somebody differently based upon the financial value to you. But love doesn't allow you to do for somebody less than the absolute best that they deserve. And so if you love somebody, it's not about your pocketbook. It's about what is best for that person. When I hire people and you love them, you want to train them. You want to be available to them. You want to, not only that, but I want to blow their socks off with my generosity. I want them to feel loved. And, Rob, I think you just said something. That was, you were raised without a dad. There's so many people that have been told their whole life what losers they are. They'll never match. They've been told that they're ugly, they're fat, they're this or that. And I just want people to know you're loved, and I love you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, I was talking at lunch today with someone, and we were talking about just knowing who you are, but more importantly, know whose you are. Because when you know that, it transfers even into your sales presentations, right? One of the reasons that I feel like I've contributed, it's contributed to my success as an agent, is because when I sit down with people, whether on the phone, in person, on a Zoom call, I transfer that energy that I really love those people and I want to serve them at the highest level. And I think there's a lot of agents, and obviously we're in the insurance industry, you're doing something a little bit different, but I believe it's the same, that people can tell when you're really trying to love them and serve them at the highest. Would you agree with that?
Oh, there's no doubt about it, that people know if you're just in it for you or if you're truly in it for them.
Yeah. And listen, as we just want to look in the camera real quickly and say this, maybe today your breakthrough is to really start chasing impact more than you're chasing apps or income. Because what I have found is that the more impact that I chase, and what I'm meaning is what Jason's talking about, loving people, and what we're talking about, serving people, it's like God just brings the income, right? He brings the increase. So maybe that's just a small mind shift that you need to have today in order to go to that next level in your business. So as we wrap up today, Jason, listen, there's most people watching this, or many people are probably in the insurance industry, because that's what we're in, but I interview leaders in different spaces. So let's just say there's somebody out there today who's in that position, and whether it's insurance or some other kind of commission-based, arena, what is some advice that you would give them to maybe motivate them, but more than that, inspire them to really begin to bet on themselves and go, hey, maybe it's time to take that risk and find that reward that you've been looking for? What is some just practical advice that you would give them?
Well, the first thing is I would ask you, who in your life do you need to fire? Because there's a lot of people giving you advice that you need to fire and get out of your life.
Man.
Number two, I would say that the start stops most people. You got to start. You can't keep putting the start off. I'll tell you, on my diets, I often say on Monday I'm going to start, but the next week and so you got to say, all right, here's the line. I'm going to start. Be authentic in who you are. Be you. You can't be somebody you're not. Put guardrails up in your life. So, so you don't fall into moral failure. Put a guardrail up on your life. And then I think you got to be constantly asking yourself, why should people follow you? Am I trustworthy? What does my fruit look like? Because it's going to be tied to what my roots look like and where am I rooted? And then don't forget to count your blessings. One of the things I tell my people all the time, you having a hard day, get outside and grab a shovel and start digging a hole. And you'll say, thank God I'm in the insurance business. I can take no all along to that. But love God, love people, reach the world. And I'll just give you one more thing, and that is every day at 3:45, I have a timer that goes off on my phone. And that timer simply asks, who have you encouraged today?
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. I think your phone may have, there it is. It came back. It froze there for a little bit. And man, that's some great advice. That was like a spitting fire lightning round there, at the end, some great practical tips. Where can we find you? Where are you at online?
Yeah, so look me up on Facebook, Jason Everett. There's a few of us out here, but I'm the only one that probably has 7 boys in my picture. So that should help you. You can also look me up, under just Google Globe Life Liberty National Division, Everett and Associates, and you can find our websites there.
Sure. Well, Jason, I appreciate you coming on today, man. You brought some serious fire today. I know when this drops in a few weeks, it's going to encourage some people. And listen, if you're watching to this, I love what Jason said, one of the tips that he gave, and that is just to start, right? I actually did a video on my TikTok channel this morning, just start. So many of us talk ourselves out of it. And excuse me for being so blunt, Jason, here, but I think a lot of Christians use prayer as an excuse to procrastinate many times, right? And I'm not saying don't pray about it, but what I'm saying is God's looking at you going, hey, start already. Get the ball rolling. I'm giving you everything that you need. And so I couldn't agree more with just start. Take massive action, no matter how imperfect that may look like today. And I promise you, it's interesting how we struggle to muster up the faith, if you will, just to trust God in the start, right? Just to get started. But I promise you, He has a resume of faithfulness. He's never let anybody down. And that's what I love. And He's not going to start with you. So just start today. Take action towards the God-sized dreams that He's put in your heart. And friends, I pray that this has put fresh wind in your sails once again, that it compels you to do something with your life. And what Jason talked a lot about today, and that is making an impact first by bringing all the glory through your life to God, the utmost glory, while making a difference in the lives of other people. I'm going to encourage you too to please like, comment, subscribe below, share this with someone who needs to hear this message today, because you never know, sharing this with them could change their lives. And I'll finish with this. I just want to say, God bless all of you guys. Listen, I say this all the time, go make it an awesome day, right? Be intentional about it. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Rob. And I appreciate you having me on. And one other thing, if anybody's in the insurance business and want to listen to my podcast, it's called Globe Nation.
Globe Nation. Okay. We'll put that in the link description when this drops here, or the video description here when it drops in a few weeks. Thanks, Jason.